You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is June the 26th, 2020. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick. How's it going, bud?
I was doing the Justin Trudeau 21 seconds of disappointment because this league is a joke. This whole thing is a joke. Yeah, let's reward a mediocre team. Go ahead, tell them the news.
So we just finished watching. It is 8:34 Eastern Time, PM on Friday, June 26th. We just finished watching, mere minutes ago, the NHL Draft Lottery. Nick's Detroit Red Wings had the chance at first overall. I won't even make him say it. They got fourth. And I have things to say that can help you. We got the first overall odds 2 years ago from Ottawa. Or I guess, no, that would have been from us because we were bad.
You're talking about the Colorado Avalanche.
The Colorado Avalanche, yep. We picked fourth overall, and we got a great young player by the name of Cale Makar.
Yes.
So things can go well when you pick fourth overall.
Hey, man, a top 5 pick is nothing to scoff at. A top 5 pick is a good pick. It is very likely an NHL player for a long time.
Yes, absolutely.
However, there is no denying that this is the worst case scenario for the Red Wings in this draft. You know what? I would argue, Carl, that the results of this draft lottery is the worst case scenario for NHL fans in general, or hockey fans in general. The fact that a play-in qualifying team is going to get the first overall pick.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
I wish I was a fly on the wall when the league executives saw who actually won the lottery, because they must have just been like, "Oh no, this is."
They made this a problem for themselves, though.
You know what? We should have seen it coming. You know what this means? Another live broadcast, another 30 minutes of our lives where they get to pepper us with advertising so we can wait to see who actually gets the first overall pick. We just waited 30 minutes. And we know we are none the wiser about who, well, I guess we're a little wiser about who's going to get this pick because it's nobody who deserved it.
It's now been narrowed down to one of 16 teams, Nick. So it's one of those teams, one of the 8 teams that loses the first round of the playoffs. There will be another draft lottery held, and there will only be one winner, and it will be that team who wins that draft lottery will be, and they'll be ranked based on regular season performance. But I look at those teams that are in that tournament, none of them are deserving a first overall. I mean, I guess some of them are, but not really. I mean, can you imagine? Here are some teams in that tournament. Carolina Hurricanes. Nothing against them. They shouldn't be getting first overall. The Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, my God.
The Edmonton Oilers, they lose to the Chicago Blackhawks. They can win this pick. If you lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets, Toronto Maple Leafs, you are eligible at first overall.
You just named 3 playoff teams, 3 teams who are actually in the playoffs.
3 teams that should have actually been in the playoffs, would have been in an actual playoff.
Yes.
If the season had finished. They have chances, yes. The Pittsburgh Penguins could lose to the Montreal Canadiens and win the first overall pick.
It's just terrible. Worst case scenario. By the way, episode title, worst case scenario.
I appreciate that. You know that's always the biggest struggle with this. So, like, obviously you wanted first overall pick.
Yes. Well, okay. So I told you this while we were watching the live stream. First overall pick was best case scenario. But I would have been happy with top 3. I would have been perfectly fine with the top 3 pick. Fourth overall, worst case scenario.
So we were watching. We watched this beforehand. We wanted Nick to be able to have some raw, unfiltered reactions. So we did not put a mic in front of his face live to record, because I would have had to edit that. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you would have. And we know you hate editing my swears.
win or lose, that would have had to get edited. So so we had that. You did say, right, you wanted fourth overall, or first overall, that the top 3 was fine.
Yes.
Getting fourth overall, do you have any idea what you want out of a fourth overall pick for the Detroit Red Wings?
I don't, Carl. If I'm being honest, I'm familiar with the top 3 picks. But I have some research to do now.
Yeah. Well, Nick, here's what if I were to look up an NHL mock draft for you. I guess here's the thing. So you did good research on those top 3 because you assumed that was it, right? So
yeah.
With that being the case, do you want best player available at 4, or do you want a specific need to be met with the fourth overall pick?
I always want best player available in the first round of the draft. Always take the best player available, especially when it's top 5.
Yeah.
Especially.
Makes a lot of sense.
I did just pull up Bob McKenzie's final draft rankings on tsn.ca. And first surprise was that he had Tim Stützle higher than Quinton Byfield. So that was the first surprise. But the other thing is that he's got Jamie Drysdale, who's a defenseman, at 4th. And we all know the Red Wings defense is basically, it's not even like AHL defense is worse than that at this point. So that's a huge need for this team. And that makes me a little happy.
So when you did your top 3 research, who did you have at that 3? Obviously, Alexis Lafreniere at 1, Quinton Byfield in there. Who was the third?
Tim Stützle. I can't say his name. The German kid.
Right. Tim Stützle? Tim.
Yes.
German Tim. At 3. And so, I've seen him anywhere from 2 to 4. So there's a chance you could get him. I would think that would be a win.
Yeah, I remember back in like November, December, he was kind of ranked in that like 4 to 6 range. And I remember seeing him in the World Juniors, and I was like, whoa, he's going to go top 5. He looked really good on that German team.
Mm-hmm. So you've got that, potentially Jamie Drysdale, that defenseman.
Yeah.
And then there's also another guy, Lucas Raymond.
Yeah.
Seen him in a lot of top ones as well. So if it came down to, obviously positional need right now, defense is a huge one. But we'll see what Mr. Stevie Y does whenever this draft is held.
I think he's got some ideas already, Carl. You watched the same feed that I did. He started making notes as soon as the Red Wings overall pick number was announced.
So alone in a room, presumably his own kitchen, without the Red Wings Zoom background.
Yes.
A pad of paper, he doesn't look like he's doing great.
No, he looks like he's in rough shape.
This quarantine's been going rough on him. It's been rough on all of us.
Yeah.
I literally the other day had a gray hair sticking straight out of my otherwise matted hair.
Oh, no. Well, hopefully Stevie makes you feel better, because he had a lot of them sticking out.
They were all over the place.
But, sorry, one more comment on his appearance, which Sure. I mean, we're this far in already, so. He did like the opposite of the rest of us, where our hair is getting too long and we're like, we got to cut it. And I saw Stevie and I was like, you shouldn't have cut your hair, buddy.
Yeah. Look, if there was a way to combine, like just meet him and Elliot Friedman somewhere in the middle, that seems like a good place to be.
Elliot should just shave his beard and put it on Stevie's head. We'd be in good shape.
That sounds like a win. What do you think he wrote on that notepad that he was taking notes on? Because I mean,
I don't know, but I hope it's just like number 4. Like I don't know. If he's like me, in meetings, I just write stuff just so I look busy. So
right,
maybe he's just like, I'm on TV, I better look busy.
Yeah, he's literally just writing his own name over and over again.
Just writing his own name. He's writing out the number of the guy who he knows, who he's like, I'll call you if I need you, if this thing goes sideways.
Yeah.
I got Gary's address.
He was making an order on Skip the Dishes is what he was doing. He was like, I need some food right now.
He was going to order a 4-topping pizza, but nope. He's like, I can't afford that many toppings anymore. I got to go down to 3.
Oh, see, I was thinking he was eating his feelings and he was going to go to the 5 toppings. Just, you know what? Triple the cheese. Let's go triple cheese on this pizza.
No, you know what it was? He had a 3-topping pizza ready to go because he thought he was going top 3.
Oh, now he's got to go 4
topping. Yeah, so he's probably looking for some German food to add on there.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know what a German pizza would be, but
it's the same as American pizza.
Right.
I've had it.
Okay. Well, there we go. So, I mean, we'll find out more about. I guess we have to play hockey for us to figure out who's got first overall.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other kind of aspect to this of like what happens if they don't get back. The playoffs don't happen.
Well, I have seen all kinds of conversation about what it is, and some of them is that every single team in the league. I saw Bob McKenzie talking about this. Apparently, this is the Bob McKenzie episode. He was talking about it this week, that there is a chance that if they do not play, because technically no team benefited from anything this season, because technically the season, he's like, there's no awards, there's no Stanley Cup. So all 31 teams would have a chance at first overall pick, which I think is an awful idea.
Yeah, that's not a good idea at all.
It's worse than giving the first overall pick to a team that's about to be in a playoff matchup.
This whole thing's garbage, man. Let's talk about something else.
All right. Well, you know who we should talk about? You know what's not garbage, Nick? Park Power. Park Power is a fantastic company where you can get your utilities from them. So head over to ParkPower.ca and find out what they can do for you. If you go there, you will find out that you are shopping local. They support, they come from Alberta. They are an Alberta-based company. You can get that. You can save money. And it is super easy for you to switch your utilities over from whatever worst company you're using right now to the fantastic people at Park Power. And they support your community. They are doing great things, and they're helping you out in this tough time of COVID and utility work and things like that. They are being super helpful to folks and customers in helping them get the rebates and the money that they need. Park Power is your place to go. ParkPower.ca. Let's talk. I mean, we don't need to dwell anymore on the draft lottery and the difficulties that you have. Do you want to make fun of a different organization for a little bit?
Please.
Here's what we're going to do, Nick. We're going to, I mean, we could stop. We didn't even talk about the fact the Ottawa Senators had the odds of picking second and third. That was where they were most likely slotted to be. And they dropped to 3 and 5.
What's that Simpsons character?
So, like, it could be much worse.
It could be worse. That is pretty bad for the Senators. It's almost as bad as sitting at the corner of the table, which, like, why was he doing that? He looked so uncomfortable.
I like that they thought, you know what's the best place for us to be able to get this shot, put a background behind you. We got this. I'd like to think that it's just like a little square table. Like they don't even have him in the boardroom. It's just like a little end table.
Oh my God. Dude, are you watching the Sportsnet feed right now?
Yeah.
Okay, because the Elliot Friedman video is going crazy, like filling the whole screen and then going back down to the small screen and then going big again. They're having a hard time. Anyway, sorry. We're live on the air.
And so are they. I mean, we're holding it together way better than they are.
At least you can edit that out. They can't.
Yeah, I mean, and we've both shaved since COVID started.
That's true.
You know, I'm saying that, but like, I'm jealous because that guy did not have that beard when this started. If I could grow the beard that Elliot Friedman has right now, and I know that this is a obviously the worst content for an audio podcast, but just look up what his beard looks like right now and know that I'm jealous of it.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So the Ottawa Senators, they had a bad time, but another organization that had an equally bad time since the last time we recorded the podcast is staying in the Atlantic, the Buffalo Sabres.
Or what's left of them.
I mean, Jack Eichel is still there and even closer to being the general manager of that team.
It's only a matter of time, right?
It's going to happen. Like, he's there. He's under contract. They either trade him or just he's the GM.
You and I over chat, I think, had a pretty good laugh about the Sabres situation. I think since we talked about it, they've made a couple hires, but when they hired that new GM, they had like nobody. Like they had no scouting staff. They had no AHL management staff. It was just like this new GM who, by the way, was the VP of like business affairs or business management or something, like completely out of left field promotion. And I was just like, what is this guy going to do? He's got nobody.
He has nobody. How bad does your scouting department have to be for you to be out of the playoffs and you to clean house immediately before you are about to pick 8th overall in the NHL draft?
The timing of all of this is just weird.
You could have done it months ago.
Yeah, this is what I don't understand. Like, why now? Because, like, really, I would hope at least that their draft board is well under development at this point.
You've got to have it, like, not just the first round. I mean, you obviously can't miss on that pick, but you've got to have a deep draft board ready.
You would have to. Like, and it's not like they're out scouting right now, which I get, but like that means that they've been building this for this draft. Like, I just don't get it.
I can only imagine they're like, hey guys, we need the draft board done all 7 rounds by 3:00 on Friday. But the draft's not for a while. 3:00 on Friday, we need it done. You're not leaving on Friday till it's done. And then they walked out of the building and they were handed their papers.
Man, just brutal. And then just brutal that like it was only 2 weeks before firing him. They're like, no, we like Jason Botterill. He's going to be our GM for a while.
Yeah. And like you said, Kevyn Adams, virtually no like GMing, player management experience.
He's a former player, I believe.
Yeah.
But again, like he was the VP of business affairs or something, which I guess kind of sounds like a made up title, but I may have just made it up too.
That might have been the title that was that what Martin Brodeur's title was when they showed him earlier tonight?
Martin Brodeur, what was he? He was just like,
he was the executive vice president.
Executive vice president and advisor. So it's two roles. There's the advisor role, and then there's just the executive vice president, but he's not the vice president of anything, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, it must be nice.
He's just a vice president.
It's good stuff. I feel so bad for both. I mean, like the Ottawa Senators are a joke of an organization starting from their ownership, and the Sabres are well on their way to being that as well. And I feel bad for the fans. Like they don't deserve to have to deal with this.
No.
Like they've been through so many iterations and nothing's worked, and it comes straight from the top.
It's yeah. I don't know. It's tough because you look, so both actually, I think Buffalo and Ottawa, you look at the product on the ice And in a vacuum, you look at those rosters and it's like, they're not that bad. Like they shouldn't. Ottawa, maybe. Ottawa's bad, but they have a good pipeline. Like they have a good foundation coming. Buffalo's not terrible. Like they shouldn't be as bad as they are, I don't think.
No. And other versions of this team should have been better. Like they underperformed with players and they were gone.
Yes. And like, look, we see it every season. They have good stretches where they're winning a ton of games, and then it just all falls apart. Like the on-ice product, I don't think is the main issue here. They've got some work to do on it. Don't get me wrong. They're not going to win a Stanley Cup with this roster, but like they shouldn't be a bottom 5 team.
No, they shouldn't be. And I mean, technically, they were the 7th worst team this year. So they're moving on up.
Fair. They're getting there. Now, they didn't fire their coaching staff, right?
Ralph Kruger is still there.
Yeah.
So he's got his coaching job, which again, the former soccer coach is still the hockey coach, which is great for him.
Yeah. And I mean, the players seem to love him, but I'm surprised he wasn't part of that. What's he been there for, a year?
A year. Well, and I mean, how long do coaches last under a new GM? But then how much can you just keep turning everything over there?
Well, that's it, right?
Success.
So I was kind of surprised that he wasn't fired, but I was also like, but he's only been there for a year. But the Sabres team doesn't surprise me. I don't know what to believe anymore. Can't believe the Red Wings fell to 4th overall.
Look, it's a tough time, Nick, for sure.
I know.
What do you think this week? It came out, obviously teams started coming back. I was trying to remember last week. We did talk about 2 weeks ago when we were here. They had not yet announced, like we had, Boston and Arizona were the only teams with COVID cases. Tampa Bay Lightning had a large amount of players and staff with it. I believe 3 players, 2 staff members came down with it, so much that they shut down their facility. Austin Matthews, according to Steve Simmons, also tested positive. Do we have a right as fans to know that Austin Matthews was the one? He's the only name that came out in all of this.
No, I don't think it matters. Does it matter? Like, what does it matter which player has caught the virus?
I mean, we'll start to know when we're playing games and there's someone who's mysteriously out of the lineup. We're going to know, right? It's like, upper body? Just when did he get the injury? I mean, he was out at a restaurant the other night and it was probably there. No, like they're either going to say he's out with a sickness or they're going to make up a fake hockey injury for it.
Yeah.
He's out 14 days for quarantine. Like we won't even know then. And you're right. It doesn't matter. And for some of these players, it's their right, whether it be, I mean, making fun of the made up hockey injury, but if they don't want to share what their injury is, they shouldn't have to.
Yeah. 100%. I don't think it matters. I don't know. It doesn't, who cares which players have it? I think the point is that they've tested X amount of players and X amount of players have tested positive, which when we spoke 2 weeks ago on this podcast, I think it was like a 5% positive rate to tests. But I don't know. It doesn't matter if it's Austin Matthews or Steven Stamkos or Sidney Crosby or and honestly, I feel like that's a pretty private health matter that could affect a lot of different aspects of your life. And I think, I don't know. I didn't expect him to be this passionate about it, but I think Steve Simmons was pretty slimy for outing him like that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Steve Simmons make some questionable reporting decisions and journalistic decisions before.
Yeah.
I was not surprised to see that he was the one who dropped that bomb.
It just seemed unnecessary.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, and I mean, looking at a lot of the places in the States and kind of, so for some spots, they're looking at 10% positive test rate. So if you have, the NHL is going to be testing players all of them, right? Like they're going to be tested. They have to be tested. And so that test rate kind of becomes thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Because it's, exactly, right? You're not just extrapolating it and assuming people are or aren't or are asymptomatic. You're going to know from these tests. So we'll see. I still don't think we have hockey. I think this fake playoff team that we have here becomes irrelevant. Yeah, as stupid as that was.
Well, so I did see an update on that while you were reading the ad. Elliot Friedman tweeted out, if for whatever reason the play-in cannot be completed, the remaining bottom 8 teams will have a 1 in 8 shot at the top selection.
So then it would turn into the teams that wouldn't have made the playoffs in a regular season. Okay.
Correct. Have a 1 in 8 shot.
And even across the board, we're just going to roll an 8-sided die.
Yeah.
These guys will have Ron McLean, Sam Cosentino, and Elliot Friedman are going to play Dungeons and Dragons, and we'll find out who wins the first overall pick.
You know what? So. I would watch the hell out of Ron McLean being a dungeon master. That would be amazing.
Is there anyone else that you can think of in the NHL that you would want other than Ron McLean? Media in the game.
To be a dungeon master?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, it's a good question. I don't think I'd want any players.
No.
I just don't think their imaginations are big enough. You know who jumped into my head immediately was the old goalie for the Flyers, Brizgalov.
Oh my goodness, yes.
He'd be good.
He would be good. I can only imagine. I've never seen, I mean, I'm not big into the Dungeons and Dragons world, but I can only imagine that this would be one of the first times, if Ron McLean was the Dungeons Master, that the Tragically Hip made an appearance in a Dungeons and Dragons game.
Absolutely.
Just the entire thing.
No, they would.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Well, we'll see. Maybe that'll happen. Look,
if the playoffs get canceled, then they need the content.
Right? They just start cycling everything, and we're all going to be playing role-playing games all summer with featuring NHL players. Good stuff. All right.
Good stuff.
The NHL, or not even the NHL, the Hockey Hall of Fame announced its latest batch of entrants, Nick. The one that I think was the easiest call for the committee was former Calgary Flame, Jarome Iginla. He made it in his first year of eligibility, as well as Marian Hossa made it in his first year.
Now, what do you think about that one?
I was surprised by it, for sure.
I was surprised too. Iginla, I heard Iginla and I was like, yeah, okay, totally. I get it. I'm there. And I heard Marian Hossa and I was like, probably wouldn't have been at the top of my list.
What I love about it, first Atlanta Thrasher in the Hall of Fame, I believe.
Is that true?
I'm trying to think. No, Chris Chelios is in. Is he not? He's got to be in.
Chelios is in, but was he an Atlanta Thrasher?
For, I think, 3 games, he was an Atlanta Thrasher.
It counts.
It counts. Well, there you go. The second Atlanta Thrasher in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So we got Hossa. And I mean, so looking at his numbers, 500 goals, 600 assists, 1,100 plus points, multiple Stanley Cups. I mean, he had a very good career.
He had a very good career. Would you call it a great career?
Not really.
Like that's kind of where I'm at. I saw one tweet. I don't even know who sent it. This is how fast I friggin' scroll through Twitter. But it was like, oh, I didn't realize this is turning into the Hall of Very Good Players. And I thought, like, that's actually a pretty apt description for Marian Hossa. He was a very good hockey player.
I still hold by my logic that if you were not, and there are very, very rare exceptions to this rule for me, but if you were not the best player on your team for one season ever, even at your position, right? Like maybe, there's, you look at the Red Wings, it's like, well, like Nick Lidstrom's on defense. So like you can have a great forward, you can have a great defense. If you were never the best on your team, especially a guy like Hossa who moved around so much.
Yeah.
He was never the best player on his own team.
Yeah.
Maybe those early Ottawa days, but like there's not a year that I look at, I'm like, yeah, that was the guy.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why I feel like he was very good, because he was always top 6. He was never really top 3 to me. He wasn't like the guy. He was a supporting cast.
Right. And I mean, so like I look at that and I'm using those. It's funny to use those Ottawa years as an example, because Daniel Alfredson, also eligible this year, did not get in. And I'm like, I look at that and I'm like, well, he was the guy rivaling Hossa as the best player in Ottawa when they were there together.
Yeah.
And sure, Alfredson didn't win a cup. And if that's the only reason that Marian Hossa got in, because he played on very good teams, that Blackhawks team managed to get him a cup.
I mean, I don't know if that's the only reason he got in, but I think that's the reason he got in over Alfredson.
And that's a stupid reason. Stanley Cup should have no bearing on if you make it.
We know the hardware matters to these guys.
I think personal awards should matter, right? Like if it says like I won multiple Vezinas, if you win multiple Vezinas, you're in.
Yeah, because that means you're the best at your position in the entire league.
Multiple years, like
right.
That's for sure a thing.
Right.
We also had Red Wings general manager Ken Holland.
Yeah. So let's talk about this for a minute, because I think it's absolutely deserved. I think Ken Holland absolutely should be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. He was a professional goalie. He became a professional scout. He worked his way through management, and he was the general manager essentially through a modern age dynasty. Like, I know the definition of dynasty doesn't really fit into that, but he essentially kept that team competitive. And with their playoff streak, he kept them competitive for 2 decades. For the better half of 2 decades. But you know what bothers me about this? He's still an active general manager.
Yeah.
Does that, like, is this just me? I don't think it's, and I felt the same thing last year when they inducted Gary Bettman. I was like, but he's still doing the job.
Right. There can be a thing that happens that tarnishes that.
Right. And then it's done. He's already in.
Yeah.
Now, I think the argument to that is that, but those years happened. He built those amazing Red Wings teams. He won those Stanley Cups. You can't take that away from him. You can't take away that work that he put into that. It still just feels weird to me for them to honor him and honor Bettman and anyone else who's still active when they put them in before their career has wrapped up.
Yeah, it is strange to do that, for sure. I agree. When you have, especially because like he's being inducted for his work with one organization, and it's like Edmonton Oilers general manager Ken Holland, welcome to
right
the Hockey Hall of Fame. It's Denard Joyce. Yeah.
So I don't know. I felt very strange about it for that reason. I do think it's very well deserved. I think that he was going to go in eventually, and he should absolutely go in. It just feels weird to do it while he's still an active GM.
Yeah. Speaking of Edmonton Oilers front office staff, Kevin Lowe should not have gotten into the Hall of Fame.
Wow. I don't think the Hockey Hall of Fame is going to allow any Oilers from the 80s to not make it in.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for Keith Gretzky to get his nomination.
Oh, he'll get in there.
Yeah. It's just, in a string of poor choices, the worst of them.
I agree. He was like, Hossa aside, Kevin Lowe is the one where I was like, come on.
Yeah. Because, again, in the same way that when Iginla got his nomination, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Kim St-Pierre getting in as well. No-brainer. Great choice. Kevin Lowe, no. Doug Wilson, also probably not. I feel like we have to shorten the length of time that you have to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
If it takes you 20 plus years to get in, just no.
Yeah, and also like it should be, I don't know, it shouldn't just be like a career achievement thing. Like, hey, great, you did 20, 30 years at a job and you didn't get fired.
Right.
Welcome, right? Like it should be for, like extraordinary work that you put in and changed and won.
Yeah. It should be, it does not need to be, like it could have just been Jarome Iginla and Kim St-Pierre and Ken Holland, and I would have been thrilled.
I agree. They don't need to have a set number if they don't have that many people.
Yeah, just don't. So,
yeah.
Anyways, that's what we have. They'll get inducted over Zoom, presumably.
Presumably.
Help us. And those are the big ticket items from this week. Nick, now that we have gone through and kind of touched on some other things, you seem to be feeling a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm calm, man. I'm cool. I'm good. Don't worry about me. I'm fine.
Okay, so let's take a quick detour into the quarantine corner, shall we?
Let's do it.
Quarantine. Each corner is to be a personal space.
God. New guy's in the corner puking his guts out.
You're gonna quarantine me inside a quarantine? Really?
Rocky Balboa prays in his corner, the champ.
Am I still in quarantine?
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
All right. What do we got in the quarantine corner?
All right, quarantine corner, Nick. Here's the scenario that I have at hand for us. One of the questions that we got in talks about the fact someone was looking at it was their birthday coming up, okay, and they'd mentioned what they wanted from their wife, and they did not get the gift they were looking for. They got something that was like, it was still fine, but it was disappointing to not get like that real gift that they wanted. What advice would you have for this person looking at how to feel about getting still a gift that's good, but not that ultimate dream gift?
Say thank you because your wife went out and got you something. So you say, thank you. I love it. And then you go on Amazon and order the thing you wanted.
Okay. I hope you're picking up the analogy that we're getting at here. The 4th overall pick is the bad gift.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately, you can't go on Amazon and buy that pick. But to take your advice, you should say thank you. Tell them that you're grateful for it. And then buy yourself something nice. So
two things. First of all, I was like racking my brain. I was like, did I forget Carl's birthday? Should I have sent him a text this week? Did I miss it? Second thing, I think it's a good point. I think top 5 pick is a good pick. It's nothing, like I said at the start of the show, it's nothing to scoff at. And that's the positive you take away. That's the thank you say to the NHL. And you can give them a good wave, too. You give them a good wave. Say thank you, NHL. And you plan. There's only so much you can control, right? So you take your 4th overall pick. You pick the best player that you can, and you continue to build your team. But you can't rely on the draft lottery to build your way forward.
It's true. I also want to commend you. It only took you until approximately the 38-minute mark for me to have to make an edit to this show. So thank you for that.
Oh, man, I wasted it on that? I could have actually, used it.
Yeah. So Nick just got a gift.
I did. I just got a fresh gift. In a piece of Red Wings merchandise.
Yeah. And with some ice cubes and some liquid in there.
With some ice cubes and some liquid. And I think that's my wife Christy's way of saying, I apologize for making that terrible joke when your team fell to 4th overall. And for those who feel out of the loop, my wife is a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. And as she left the room, she watched the draft lottery with Carl and I. And as she left the room, she said, at least my team can win a draft lottery.
It was great. We almost had to ask her to just join the show as like a regular cast member after that. No. I also realized at that moment that if she were to ever be on the show, it would go terribly for your relationship.
It would go awful. You know what, though? In all seriousness, she knows so much about hockey and especially the Maple Leafs that I do really think we should have her on sometime when we're doing like a Maple Leaf special. This is if hockey ever comes back. We're talking as if we're ever going to have fun again.
Yeah. I mean, some random team from the bottom 8 is going to get first overall pick. We're going to talk about that.
It's probably going to be if the Leafs win the first overall pick. No, you know what? I'm not giving her a microphone. Never mind. You
know what is great though, Nick? A little solace. If there is no hockey, from Elliot Friedman's tweet, if there is no hockey and it does go to a random draw of those bottom 8 teams, the Toronto Maple Leafs are not one of those 8
That's
teams.
That's right,
now.
yeah.
So those teams would be Montreal Canadiens, Florida Panthers, New York Rangers, New York Islanders, Chicago Blackhawks, Arizona Coyotes, Minnesota Wild, and Vancouver Canucks. Which actually, I know we're in the quarantine corner section, but we know slightly more about hub cities as well.
That's right. Vancouver is officially out. It sounds like their bid was rejected and they were just like, okay, well, our bid's our bid. We're not going to make changes to it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame them for that at all.
Which is the opposite of what Toronto did, because Toronto's bid was rejected and they're like, okay, we'll just give you a different part of the city. And now that's
right.
Under consideration.
Yeah, it's a big city. There's a lot to do. Downtown Vancouver doesn't really have a lot of options. So
no. And you got to think about creating that bubble too, right? Where everyone's got to be isolated. It can't be hard in some of these urban cities.
No, I still think it ends up in Edmonton as our bubble city. And I know some people, potential future third co-host of this show included, think it is unwise to have both of these cities in the Western Conference. But we talked about it previously. It doesn't really matter where it is because no one's going to them.
Yeah. Well, it's all about TV, right? And being able to watch it live. And I think if both cities end up being, in the Western side of the continent, then they're just going to be playing hockey much earlier in the day.
Which I feel is better than playing late into the day. Like if you are having to do a 9 o'clock start on the Eastern time zone, no one wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Nick made sure. He said, look, I'll do this podcast as long as we start before 9 o'clock.
Carl, I have an 8-month-old. You know what time I go to bed now? I'm stretching it, man.
Well, we'll wrap this up for you as soon as possible. So we've got our hub cities coming down. But in reality, do you care where these hub cities are?
No, it doesn't matter.
I realized that when the Canucks made theirs and everyone's like, well, it's not going to be my city. And like, unless you have a vested interest, like it is literally your city and you want that revenue boost that you get from the NHL for coming there, it doesn't matter.
No, It really doesn't matter. I'm more concerned, honestly, about what happens when they're mid-playoff series and somebody tests positive for the virus.
Yeah. You know what? I thought about this week as well. So we've got that, right? Testing positive for the virus. Another question I have, and I wasn't able to find an answer. Who hosts the finals? And if you have it in different countries, how do you have to quarantine for the 2 weeks? Does just going straight into the bubble count as your quarantine?
I don't know. I would think that they would have it in the US because I think the Canadian government's pretty firm on there. If you're coming here, you got to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and the US government's firm on almost nothing when it comes to COVID right now.
Exactly.
So we've got our hub cities, we've got the draft lottery, we got the matchup set for the first round. Training camps officially open July 10th. That will be that weekend. The weekend after that is going to be our next episode. So we will be coming at you. Well, that's August. July 13th is going to be the next time we are with you. So we will be here to recap. Does training camp actually start? Because all these players are going to be back. They're going to be testing for COVID. Are they going to get it? Are they not? We will see what happens there. But let's hope. I mean, I don't want hockey to not happen.
Yeah, I agree. I want to watch hockey. I do really want to watch hockey. I don't want to start watching hockey and then having it canceled again, though.
No, I don't want that at all. It's even more unfinished than just not finishing the season.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, let's see. I guess training camp will be our ultimate test to see if this can be kept under control within rosters, because if it starts to become an issue, I think we'll start to see, well, obviously camps will get extended. Playoffs will continue to get pushed back, and we will or will not see hockey happening this year. So,
yeah.
Any last thoughts before we wrap up?
No, just that, like, I know we joke and I know we got that tweet from Quarantine Corner, but like we do have a lot of friends down south, so I do hope you guys are staying safe and keep your heads up. We love you. Absolutely.
Let's wrap up the show. Let's let everyone know about this fantastic program. And this is actually a great show. I know, I'm just going to get into it. So PodPower is a new program brought to you by being able to amplify the voices of Albertans and their podcasts. And this fantastic show, which listening or reading the description of it sounds something super interesting. It's called A Tale of Two Weeklies. And as someone, Nick, who's, worked in and been around media before, it's a documentary podcast series, which I know I personally love, but it digs into the rise and fall of Edmonton's C Magazine and View Weekly, two weekly newspapers engaged in a newspaper war that neither of them survived. So you can read this at A Tale of Two Weeklies, wherever you find podcasts, or go to taleoftwoweeklies.com and find out how did this happen, what led to the demise of both of these newspapers, because it's a good glimpse into the newspaper world.
Interesting.
So tune in, check that out. You can find us at thefourthlinepodcast.com. You can find more fantastic shows at albertapodcastnetwork.com. Head on over there and enjoy that. You can find us on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast. We are on all of the places where you can find podcast shows. Apple, Google, Spotify. If you like leaving reviews and you like the show, please do. If you didn't like the show, please don't. If you listened through this entire show and you didn't like it, I appreciate your commitment to trying.
I do too, and I can't wait to hear your tweets as they're coming.
Yeah. Tweet at us. You can email us, mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com. If you're not on the social media and you think right now social media is not a place that you like to be, you can email us. So head on over there. Nick, thank you very much for being willing to do this show. You signed up to do a podcast without knowing how it would end.
That's right.
And
I love it.
I appreciate your vulnerability. Thank you. We'll be back in 2 weeks after camps open on July 10th. Enjoy.
Oh, I gotta do a song now?
You still have to sing.
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Until next time.